there's people on the internet who don't like us. Do you consider them enemies?
Yes.
You do?
No, I'm just kidding.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Julyssa, and of course, I am here with the boy, Brandon. Say what's up.
What's up? Yeah, sorry guys, a little bit of an adjustment. It's just me today. But it was just Steve yesterday. But we got a very special guest today.
Yeah.
We have Mar. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been a bit of a journey for you to get here. Hope you're doing
Yes.
well. How are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
I slept pretty early because my flight was at 4 a.m. So
Yeah. Flights suck.
How long is the flight? From-
like an hour and 40.
Okay, not too bad.
That's actually not too bad at all.
Yeah.
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 It always surprises me how quick the flights can be sometimes. But for anybody who's watching, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So my name is Mar, and I have a art business where I sell merchandise of like my own character, Marshal. A lot of people have seen him around on like social media, the giant mushroom menace that takes on conventions. And yeah, I just make cute little things, cute little characters. And that's what I'm mostly known for.
How did you get started with your art journey?
So I originally did not plan to get this big and like
Yeah.
this height of, success. It was mostly supposed to be kind of like a summer type of little gig that I had going on because I got accepted into a an art college called Laguna College of Art and Design. I think that's what it was called. And it was so expensive to go to school there. So I was like, well, I need to make some money to be able to afford going. So I couldn't really get a summer job of any sorts because of my disability. It was just really hard finding an employer that was willing to work with me. So I was like, okay, well, I'm good at art, so I'm just gonna do some paintings. And what I used to do is I would go to thrift shops and I would find things that I can paint directly on. And I would paint designs on them, or I would buy wooden slabs and do paintings on them. I was just doing a bunch of crafty, painterly things. And I don't know why, but I just suddenly started painting mushrooms on some of these things. And I saw that people really liked mushrooms. So I was like, okay, I have something here. People like mushrooms, so I'm going to keep painting mushrooms. And I think everything just went from 0 to 100. And I was making a good chunk of money that I wasn't really used to making. So I was like, do I go to college and just take out a loan and see what happens after college? Or do I just keep what I'm doing now and not go to college? So then I was just it was literally weeks before the semester was supposed to start. And I emailed the admissions office and I said that I was not going to attend. And I just continued doing, what I'm doing right now.
Oh, wow. So it's kind of like an unexpected path that you took.
Yeah.
So, you would, at thrift stores, so how they always have, those random paintings, you would just go and then you would make them your own after that? And then you would, resell them?
Not the paintings, but, if I found any, wooden sort of, a tiny little wooden jewelry box or, some ceramic or a plate or something, I would paint
Right.
directly on that.
Interesting. So then how did you, so when you saw that people really liked mushrooms, is that when you segued into the characters, it's Marshall, Mosh, Mars, Muffy, and Meadow, right?
Yeah.
So you saw that people were resonating with the were they always caricatures or were they just mushrooms in general and people just gravitated to them?
At first, they were mushrooms, just regular mushrooms, they didn't have a face or anything.
Mhm.
And then I have always been into illustration and I've always been into illustration and what am I trying to say? I've always been into illustration and cartoons and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was just getting bored drawing regular mushrooms. So I was like, I think they need to turn into a human or something, or like, personify them.
Right.
So I added eyes and all that stuff and tried to make them into a little character. And then people loved it even more. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to build off of this and see
Yeah.
what happens.
How did that feel? Because, like, I guess for me, that would be, like, mind-blowing. Because to kind of just say, this is going to be a summer gig. And then I saw, like, you've been in Hot Topic. You've had interviews on the news. And then you met the creator of Strawberry Shortcake. How does that feel to kind of look at where you started and then, like, something that you didn't really think was going to go anywhere suddenly become this big deal?
I think it's like, I don't know. I feel like I think I processed it, but at the same time, I really don't think, because I'm always like on the go and always thinking of like, what's the next thing I'm going to do? How can I top the last thing that I did? But I don't actually take the time to like actually process it and be like, oh, like what I did was super cool. So like when I saw myself in Hot Topic, for example, I walked out of there and I was like, okay, what's the next thing that I got to do now?
Right.
So it wasn't like, I just feel like I've not had that moment of like celebration, I guess, or time to celebrate. Like I feel like I don't make it as much as a big deal as I should within myself.
Yeah, because I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially to meet the creator of Strawberry Shortcake. I didn't know she looked like that until I saw your video of
Yeah,
you
same.
meeting her. I think that's really cool, especially because I think right now Hello Kitty and Snoopy are having the spotlight,
Yeah.
and Strawberry Shortcake kind of fell behind a little bit. But I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, she's an interesting woman.
Yeah.
We actually followed each other before we met. And we would talk on like DMs and things like that. And I even told her like, one of these days I want to meet you. Like I'm even willing to fly to where you are
Yeah.
just to be able to like have a chat with you. But then the stars aligned, and it so happened that she got invited to like an event in Portland for a doll expo sort of thing. So I was like, that's my chance. I am going to go say hi to her. And then I said hi to her and she recognized me. And we had a little moment where, she was telling me how she feels like I capture like cuteness and like quirkiness really good with my art style, which is crazy to hear because she's like the one like known for making really cute things. So I gave her one of my strawberries nurses as like a little gift. And I actually heard from somebody recently that they live in her town and that they have seen her carrying that purse around. So
sweet.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of people said that they feel like that interaction was kind of like her passing the torch over to me to like build kind of like what she was building for the next generation.
That's really
That's
cool.
cool.
Because I mean, I didn't even, because I remember as a kid, Strawberry Shortcake used to have a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was a cartoon with
Mhm.
her and her friends.
Yeah.
So like, I thought that was really cool. Is that so? Like, would you say that she's kind of like your inspiration of, or I guess kind of, she kind of laid down the pathway of the path that you kind of want to take?
Yeah. I would honestly love to do like a cartoon
Yeah.
version of like my characters and like give them a little story and things like that. But for me, I just wish like, because I've heard her story, right?
Yeah.
And she worked for like a greeting card licensing company, and they hired her to do Strawberry Shortcake as a one-off for a greeting card. And then they saw that people really liked that greeting card, so that company started like having her do more. But in reality, she was only paid to do the job, but wasn't actually paid royalties for Strawberry Shortcake. So when Strawberry Shortcake became more of a thing, like cartoons and toys and all that stuff, she wasn't given any royalty. So it does make me a little sad that like now in modern day, we can kind of be artists like be able to fund ourselves and, you know, make the money ourselves. Meanwhile, like a bunch of artists back then, they were hired by companies to do illustration jobs, and then they would take those characters and turn them into something bigger.
Right.
And then those artists wouldn't get the royalties for it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I've heard about stuff like that, right? Where um a character becomes a big success and then the artist kind of fades off.
Yeah.
Or they I guess the companies that hire them intentionally try to fade them off because they don't want to give them all
Yeah.
any of the
Yeah.
royalties. Usually you hear it's something small because I think that happened with Venom, the Spider-Man character. I
Really?
think some little kid made him, or like
really?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe it was some Reddit thing I saw that wasn't true.
Yeah.
But it was like some kid drew Spider-Man in like a black thing in like a black suit, and they
Mhm.
sent it in, and they gave him like $25 in a comic book, and then he became Venom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a shame, especially for a woman,
Yeah.
because I think that's a shame, you know,
Mhm.
because I think even just beyond the art field, that tends to happen a lot. Like I remember in school learning about it in the sciences,
Mhm.
where people would or a woman scientist would discover something, and then they'd write it off and be like,
Yeah.
the lab did it,
Yeah.
or her teacher did it, you know. So yeah, that's pretty frustrating. It's unfair to her.
And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really sad because she, you know, she told me that, like this, she said in other interviews too, but she told me that, that during that time that Strawberry Shortcake was such a big thing and they were making like so much money. Meanwhile, she's like at home and her husband was battling cancer and they had to like sell things and like try to pay off like his medical debt. So that's like really sad to think about how like the characters that she made is like making millions while she's like struggling at home trying to take care of her husband.
Yeah, that's horrible, man. Oh my god, especially since they had like a show about it.
Yeah.
I remember in the early 2000s, because my sister really liked Strawberry Shortcake when she was younger. Strawberry Shortcake was everywhere. So even like if you go like on, do you ever see those people on the highway where they sell the like little chairs
Oh yeah.
like
they
kids?
yeah.
Or like the little rugs,
couches?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Strawberry Shortcake's on some of them. So I think that's a shame. I think it's also a shame that I didn't even know what she looked like until I saw Mars'
Same.
video. Considering how big
Same.
she is, because I guess in my head, the art style of Strawberry Shortcake looks a little older, a little more vintage, like those old Hallmark cards.
Yeah.
So I assumed she was just a lot older.
Mhm.
But to see that she's still around and like, you know, gladly doing all these things,
Mhm.
yeah, she deserves way more recognition, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. I also think you're always just used to seeing more of the characters than the artist.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just get focused on the character itself. So same.
Yeah.
Like for a while I did not know what she like the creator of Strawberry Shortcake looked like until I saw your video too. And I was like, oh wow. I was like,
Yeah.
you met her? Well, that was cool. First it was cool. But like knowing I guess her backstory, it is a little I guess sad and upsetting that that's something that happened. But I guess to kind of your story, like it's nice to see that now artists are taking ownership of their own art.
Yeah.
For sure it's something to be aware of. Like I didn't know that was something like that was going
Yeah.
on.
But I also think that it's a really cool story that people and feel that she was trying to pass the torch to you,
Mm-hmm.
considering especially like your Latina background and also another woman.
Yeah.
And I think to me, I think that's really cool
Mhm.
because I think it's really cool that she didn't. I mean, I'm justifiably upset, and I think
Yeah.
if I was her, I'd be upset. But I think it's cool that she's still like, no, let's keep pushing the next artist. I think that's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Was that like an inspirational moment for you?
Yeah, I think like she kind of gave me like good luck in a way because I think like maybe 2 months after that interaction, Hot Topic wanted the Strawberry Nurse to be sold at their store. So it's just so interesting how like I gave her Strawberry Nurse at that moment. She passes the torch, and then 2 months later, Hot Topic is like, yeah, we want the Strawberry Nurse. So I was like, maybe that's like that was like her giving me some sort of luck.
that's really cool, man.
Nice. Yeah. The nurses, especially the Strawberry nurse, was my favorite that I saw on your page. They're really adorable. Honestly, your characters are really adorable. And I also read that Marshal is inspired by your brother, right? Your younger brother?
Yeah.
Did you just name him after him, or is there something like else?
No,
that goes into it?
I did not name it after him. I asked a long time ago,
Mhm.
like, I posted an illustration of Marshall, and then I asked people to give him a name, and then the most liked comment was Marshall. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go with Marshall. And then I try to keep the trend going to have all the mushrooms have an M name. So all the mushrooms have, the letter M.
Yeah.
And I based it off of my brother in a way where, like, I guess, like, mannerisms and curiosities. Because my brother is, like, a really curious person, like, and really spontaneous and random. Like, he just wants to be a part of everything. And so Marshall to me is, like, really adventurous, like, wants to be friends with everybody, wants to just dive into anything, wants to go anywhere, be anything. Like, he just wants to be basically just a part of everything. So that's how my brother is, and which is a good thing, but sometimes, curiosity can lead to, like, bad choices, or, like, getting into situations, and it's like, it's like living life on the edge. And yeah, I guess Marshall is just like, I don't know, even though he's like soft and squishy, he's like, he lives on the edge.
Do you have well, I guess I don't want to ask you to pick a favorite, but do you have one that you identify the most with, or is there one that you feel is kind of you in a way?
Yes. Muffy is kind of like me because I based it off of when I was little, I would wear, like, the grocery bags. Like, I would put them on by I would, like, grab the bag, and then I would put my foot in to make holes, and then I would, like, push it up, and then wear the straps on my shoulders. So that's why Muffy has a grocery bag, like, he's wearing a grocery bag. So I kind of based Muffy off of that, and I think that's kind of like me in a way.
Is there, like, would you say that you have a goal, or like an intent, or even like a mission that you're trying to portray with these characters, or even just your art in general? Would you say that there's, like, just like a goal that you have, or a message that you want to get out there through them?
I think for a message, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've, like, had that sort of idea. I think my main goal is with my characters, I'd like people to feel comfort, and I make sure that each mushroom has its own personality, so it could identify to different sets of people. So I just want to make sure that I make characters where people can identify with and also feel some sort of comfort. That's basically my goal, just because growing up, I would always find comfort in, like, cartoons and things like that. And that's why I appreciated Strawberry Shortcake, because I feel like she always had, like, a variety of characters. She even has, like, a Hispanic character too.
Really? I remember because I swear it was my sister watching. There's a boy one, right? And he has a blueberry. Yeah. I like that guy. I thought he was cool. So would you say as a kid, like, to get comfort or to find comfort, you would start cartooning and start doodling? Would you say that you're self-taught in that way?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just because in school I couldn't really play with the other kids that much.
Yeah.
Just because I was always like, the doctors would always be like, don't run too much, don't play baseball because you could get hit with a baseball and then lose your eye, because my eyes are really sensitive. So if I get if I get injured in any way, if I fall, if something, like, hits my head, I could lose my vision really easily. So they were just always like, don't be around balls, basically. Don't run that much. Don't play rough with other kids. So I just had a lot of limits. So I just would bring, like, printer paper and like pencils and markers, and I would just draw during
Yeah.
like recess and lunch.
Yeah. So would you say that you never really gravitated too much to like, because I saw in one of your videos that you said that, was it with your teachers that you found it kind of a little bit frustrating because like it was more like they wanted you to survive and you
Yeah.
wanted to live. And I
Yeah.
thought that was a profound statement. So like I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit, if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think it's like it's something that always frustrates me in the education system, where they see disabled kids and they want to like push them to their own classes, to their own like areas, their own spaces, rather than having them just be within the school. Um, and when I was in special ed, it was a lot about teaching me how to like, you know, they should teach me how to be able to like walk around and count money and like interact and things like that. That's fine, but it doesn't get to any sort of deeper extent. It's just they teach me the skills, and then they're like, okay, you're gonna go to college. They're gonna teach you more skills, like adult skills, like how to wash laundry and things like that. And then that's basically it. Like, you are gonna get on disability and work a few hours at a job because, you know, a random job, like probably just greet people at the entry of like a Target or something. And then that's what your life is, basically just survive, work as work a job that's like not fulfilling, and then live off of disability. That's like, I feel like that's the thing that they try to push the most. And then, you know, if I've seen so many disabled kids who have a lot of like creativity and they want to do things like dance, sing, act, do art and things like that. But I feel like they never take them seriously. It's more like infantilizing, where they're just like, "Oh, you want to do dance? That's so cute. Okay, anyways, let's, you know, teach you how to cross the street," and then that's it. So, I just feel like there should be more programs where it just helps disabled people get into, you know, their dreams.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like they shut them down too quickly, because they're just like, I don't think you're capable. Like, that's cute that you have those dreams, but, you know, people just don't take those type of dreams seriously.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially like how you mentioned how expensive art school was. You know what I mean? Like, and I saw you share about how like when you were younger, your mother couldn't really work a traditional job because she had to care for you. So,
Yeah.
so obviously money was tight, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that sounds horrible. I mean, like I can imagine that that's the case for a lot of people where, you know, in some cases, yeah, they need more care. That doesn't mean anything. You know,
Yeah.
I think they're
Yeah.
still entitled to their dreams and whatever it is they want to accomplish in life.
Mm-hmm.
But instead it's, man, that's such a frustrating situation because
Yeah.
it's like, on one hand, you would think that it's like, oh, let's give a helping hand, but in a lot of ways, it's like I can see how that's like a barrier even in itself
Yeah.
to like infantilize you guys, or to say like, oh, that's cute. Like, but anyways, like let's focus on, like you said, learning how to cross the street. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah. But I also feel like your story is also just inspiring in itself, right? Like you've mentioned, you talked about your disability and still being able to, you know, create these characters and sell them, and now people know them, you know, worldwide. And I think that's an incredible thing to see, that even if you have, or there's people with disabilities, that they're still capable and have so much potential to do a lot of things, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the world itself just doesn't know how to adjust, right? Doesn't know how to, you know, I guess be not, I don't know if accepting is the right word, but to kind of just adjust to people with disabilities, right?
'Cause I think it was something like 2-3 episodes ago. We were talking about everybody's favorite guy, RFK Jr., and how he was the Tylenol and autism thing,
Yeah.
where he tried to say that
Oh, yeah.
Tylenol causes autism,
Mhm.
right? And I was talking about how frustrating it is they'll hear the way he talks about autism.
Yeah.
Like it's like this incurable disease or this horrible thing. But I was saying how like in a lot of ways, I just think that the issues people have with autism is that the world doesn't want to accommodate them or is so unwilling to accommodate them, you know? And I think kind of like what you mentioned with work, you know, I'm sure that was frustrating about, you know, all these jobs who, you know, it's, I think when I would apply to jobs, right, it says at the bottom, like, oh, the Disabilities Act, da 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 da. If you identify, it's fine, or this and that.
Yeah, they'll like accommodate.
Yeah, right. But then the reality of it is they don't want to, right?
Yeah,
and that's a shame because it's like, I really think like the issue that everybody they try to put the issue on the person with the disability. It's your fault that you can't do what we're asking of you.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think what's frustrating about it or hearing about it is like, no, I think they would be just as fine as anybody else. You're just unwilling to be accommodating in any way, you know? And so that's like, I understand that frustration. I could see how frustrating that would be.
Yeah, I feel like the simple one, I guess, for people to understand, it's kind of like when we build buildings, right?
Yeah.
And they only have stairs, right? But then we have to accommodate or adjust to that there's people on wheelchairs, you know?
Yeah.
Or people who can't even, you know, lift enough to like go up the stairs. So we have to accommodate to kind of make them that wheelchair access, right? Like it's in sort of that thing, right? It's just the little things that we have to do for them. They're capable of, you know, going into the building, but we kind of put that challenge for them to not be able to go in because we don't accommodate to them, right? So I think in that sense, I think sometimes it's so hard for people to kind of feel that accommodation for them. Because I always feel like people with disabilities, I've always heard this term of like, they're different, but they're not anything less, you know, like they're still able and capable of doing a lot more things than anybody else.
Yeah.
Right. They just have this one thing and that's it.
Yeah. I also feel like, I guess, I mean, just hearing you speak just briefly right now, that how you said that they would kind of separate you a little bit from the kids at school. Was that frustrating for you? I mean, like from your perspective, because I also feel like when schools or whatever it is does that.
Yeah.
I hear what they're trying, like what they're saying, right? Where it's like, oh, you know, it's for your best interest or trying to keep you safe or whatever it is. But I think to a degree, it also adds a little bit to like the stigmas, because then it's like, you know, it's like just separating them. Because I think as a kid, you know, I think it's important to be able to understand and be able to interact and learn that lesson of like, you know, everybody's different and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think, did you ever feel frustrated in that way of like, why am I being separated? Like,
I for sure felt so much frustration just because for me, when I was in special ed, it was like for the blind department for kids who couldn't see. And the teacher that was managing it, of course, and I'm sure that there are teachers that are a bit more accommodating and better. But for me particularly, the teacher that was managing the blind students, he just kind of treated us all as the same. So blindness is a spectrum. Like we aren't all just like completely blind.
Right.
We all have different like sets of strengths when it comes to vision. And for me, I was just blind in my left eye, and I do need glasses for my right eye. But other than that, if with glasses, I can like adapt and do things myself and read normal text and things like that. So I remember that teacher was always so frustrated with me because I did not want to like listen to the things that he wanted me to do. So like I remember he really wanted me to bring every single assignment that I would get from class and walk over to the resource room, which is the blind, classroom. And he said that I had to like put the worksheets on this sort of like printer, like scanning printer thing, and it would enlarge it into like this really, really big sheet that was like this big. so I can do my worksheets in bigger text. And I always told them I don't think I need that because I could see just fine. Like reading distance, I could see just fine. I don't need to carry around these big worksheets because they were frustrating to like carry around. I had to like fold them up and like put them in a binder. And so I was just like, I was always telling him, I don't think I need to do that. And then it would also like take me out of class because I would have to walk to the classroom just to enlarge these papers. And then I would miss part of the class. And then I remember I had talked with him and I was like, I don't think I need this. I am fine reading at a normal text level. My textbooks, I want them to be at normal level because I just read a lot slower if like the page is taken up by big text.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, I know it's good for you. Like he just thought I was like being a brat basically. And he always had this perception thinking that I was trying to like I guess like pretend that I'm normal or something. Like he thought I was ashamed of my blindness. And he was just like, you're not like the other kids in school. Like you just gotta like do what I say, basically. And I remember he got so mad at me one time. And I was refusing to read a worksheet in large text. So he grabbed the worksheet and then he put it. There used to be like this computer machine thing where it was like a kind of like a projector where you would put the worksheet underneath the computer and then turn on the screen, and then on the screen it would blow up the text. So he slid the paper under there, and I guess that was his loophole with me being able to have a worksheet in normal text rather than enlarging it in the big paper. And he was like, okay, if you don't want the big paper, then you're gonna have to use this computer thing to like enlarge the text. And so he slid the paper under there. He pulled out the chair and he was like, you're going to sit here and you're going to read this worksheet using that computer. And you can't get up until you finish your worksheet using that computer. I don't want to see you like reading like the text normally without, the computer or anything like that. And I remember I was just so like, I think that was like my final straw with him. And I started to rebel a little bit during that time. And I was just like absolutely not listening to a word he was saying and like breaking a lot of rules. And yeah, he had a tough time with me, but I'm glad he had a tough time with me and he was stressing over me because that guy needed, sort of reality check. I wasn't going to do what he wanted me to do. I know myself. And I think the problem is like sometimes some people who work in those fields are the most ableist, I think.
Really? Yeah. I mean, like, no, yeah, I mean, that's terrible because, I mean, I hear about it here and there. Not necessarily. I haven't heard it too much through the disability perspective, but I have heard it through the woman perspective, mostly with doctors. I hear about how a woman will go in complaining about a serious pain and the doctor will kind of like hand wave you like, I know you're fine. Like it's just whatever it is. And then sooner or later, it turns out it was actually something extremely serious and the doctors didn't listen. So that's unbelievable. Did you find that like that was kind of like a repetitive thing going on where you were like, I know the pace that I want to set, or I know what I'm capable of. Let me set my pace. People would kind of step over you and say, no, you don't. Like, this is the pace I choose for you. Was that like a common occurrence, like growing up for you?
I made sure that never happened again. Right. So once I had that situation with that teacher, that was in middle school.
Right.
I had it from 6th to 8th grade. Once I graduated, I didn't even say bye to him or anything. I just remember walking out and being like, I am never going to have that happen to me again. I'm not going to let anybody tell me what to do about my disability and, like, my strengths and weaknesses. Like, I know myself. I'm going to proceed with how I want to proceed. So I remember when high school came along, that teacher, I think he had, like, some sort of, like, he was just really on me even after graduation. Apparently, he called the high school that I enrolled to, and he told them about my disability, because I didn't disclose my disability in the new high school, because I did not want to go through the process again. And he called them and told them about it. And then I got called into the office, and they were like, so we heard that, you have vision problems and all these problems. Like, let's sit down and talk about how we can better help you. And I made it clear. I said, I don't really want help. If I need help, I'll ask. And they were like, okay. But then they ended up accidentally putting me in special ed again. And I just remember my first day of high school, all my classes, I was like, this isn't a typical classroom. I'm in a small classroom with a few kids that are like, and this wasn't even for vision anymore. This was just like for kids with like severe, how do you say it? Severe
learning
disabilities. Right. And obviously I did not have any learning disabilities. So that was like, man, so they see somebody who's disabled and they just put them basically in the smoothie pile of other people who are disabled, but in other ways. And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I just feel like I better fit with, like, the classrooms with, like, normal learning and everything like that. So then I went to the dean and the counselors, and I told them, like, you guys have to change my class. I don't want to be part of the program. And then they had to have, like, this whole meeting, and they called my doctor in, and we just had to, like, come to terms with everything. And we finally came into an agreement that I wasn't going to be in any special ed classes, but that I'm welcome to, ask for help at the office if I need anything. And yeah, we agreed on that. And then I did not take any special ed classes again.
That teacher, dude, what a horrible guy. Yeah. He called your high school?
Yeah.
Isn't that illegal? I thought you couldn't do that. I thought you're not allowed to share without the consent of somebody who has the disability. What a terrible guy.
Yeah, I have no idea how it happened. I just I guess just because all the teachers know each other within. So I don't really know how it went down, but I remember also I moved high schools to a different high school.
Right.
And it even happened over there too.
He did it again?
Yeah, where they heard that I had vision problems, and I had to go through the process again. It wasn't even at the start of me being at the high school. It was like, I think around 10th or 11th grade. I just suddenly got a call one day, and they were like, we heard you have vision problems. We want the vision department, like the special ed vision department, to test you to see if you're qualified for the program. And I was like, man, I have to do this all over again. Like, they had to pull me out of class, and I had to do this process again. And I had to do the test. But thankfully, that program teacher, she was a bit more lenient and a bit more understanding. So she did the test, and she did tell me, like, I don't really think you need our resources. And I was like, thanks. That's good to hear. I'm leaving.
Yeah, like you hadn't been telling them that the whole time, right? Like that's crazy.
That's tough.
Yeah, well, especially I thought that was interesting that you say that sometimes people who work with disability or in those programs tend to be the most ableist people ever. Like, that's insane to me.
Because sometimes they just feel like, and that could just be like, not all of them. There are some good people, but there are just a lot of people in that work field who just have a power trip, and they feel like they're doing a good deed, and that good deed just feeds off of their ego, I guess. So I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you ever experience that with doctors, or was it mostly just like teachers and stuff?
With doctors, I I've always been lucky with having good doctors that understand what I'm saying. I think mostly like if I were to go to the emergency room, I would encounter doctors who wouldn't listen to me because they weren't really familiar with my case, and they'd like
Right.
write me off with something that wasn't even like wasn't even something for my case. So like for example, I had really bad migraines and I went to the emergency room and they prescribed me muscle relaxers for them. And they were like, try this and see if that works. And then I put in the prescription at the pharmacy, and then the pharmacist calls me and he's like, just so you know, I don't know why they prescribed this for you, but with the medicines that you're taking, um, this this mixture could be very lethal. Like you should not be taking muscle relaxers.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I had no idea. And I'm glad that the pharmacist caught that on, because imagine if I would have taken the muscle
Right.
relaxers. So yeah, there's a lot of doctors that just like, they just like write a prescription and they just like wash their hands and they're like, all right, next person.
Yeah. I mean, damn. That's such a like. It's such a real problem, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But it's such a like complicated and frustrating one. Because I think it's in a lot of ways, it's like, well, I need to trust you, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would love to trust you. And then, especially now, considering the people in office who are trying to demonize healthcare. Actually, I think it was 2 days ago, the Department of Education cut like a ton of departments or jobs for disability for education, coincidentally. Yeah, that's got to be like, that's such a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's like, at what, like, who do you trust? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do in those situations? Because it's like, well, you do need the services sometimes. You do need the help. But at the same time, it's like, nobody knows you better than you, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't listen, And then, like you just said, the muscle relaxers, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That they gave you what could have been a lethal dose.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like a frustrating thing that we've never been full. I mean, we've been aware of that, the healthcare system and with teachers. It's always just been a little difficult with them, but it's because of the resources that they're not given, right? Like sometimes, like for teachers, it's kind of like I'm just here to be here.
Yeah.
And then for doctors, it's like, well, I just need to get my job done and checking people in and stuff like that. And I think the way the systems are kind of set up, sometimes it's hard for them.
Yeah.
For sure, I just think it's a lot of like adjustments that need to be made, but it's just hard, especially right now with, healthcare always being attacked and like, and there's a reason, right, that we're fighting for these things, because it's like in these situations, right? Like this is when you were a lot younger, and like now it's just like it still can be currently happening, right? But there's no changes being done because of all these different what'd you say, like facts that are coming out, or like information that's coming out as to like why we need to, I guess, defund them. But in reality, we need a lot more funding, a lot more resources, because a lot of people need these things, right? It for sure is frustrating to hear that it just feels like a very unfair situation for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who just get affected by this.
Yeah. Because I think,
are just very vulnerable.
Because I think, like, I mean, obviously, I can't relate in the aspects of how you shared. Like, I don't have a disability like that, but I can relate in certain aspects of, like, with mental health, right? Like, I've talked to doctors, and sometimes they're like, you have this, and or like it's because of this, and I'll be like, I feel like I'm clearly explaining to you what my symptoms are and what I would like some help for.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes you can get very hand waved off. Like, I remember this one time I was struggling a lot with like really bad anxiety, like just horrible anxiety. And I felt like I was talking to the wall because they kept being like, so you're depressed. And I was like, I'm not, like, I'm fine. Like, or they'd be like, yeah, but you mentioned, like you were depressed this one time, like, and to a degree, like, I understand, right? Like, I'm like, I get it. Like, you're trying, I don't know if there's like a paperwork that you have to fill out, or maybe I said like a series of words that maybe you have to do some sort of protocol with me,
Yeah.
right? But I remember being like, man, like, am I insane? Like, I feel like I keep telling you, like,
Yeah.
it's not that, and you keep pushing, like, that it's this other thing. And again, like you said, it's difficult because I'm not trying to, like, considering the time we live in, unfortunately, I'm not at all trying to be like, don't trust doctors
Yeah.
or listen to RFK or any of that. Do not do that, please. But I think that's a real issue,
Yeah.
right? Where sometimes it's like I'm trying to advocate for myself. And in your case, where I'm like, I'm trying to set the pace of what I need. And I feel like people just aren't listening to me.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit more if it was okay. I mean, it's Marfan Syndrome, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Marfan Syndrome.
Marfan Syndrome. So until I've never heard of Marfan Syndrome.
Same.
I've heard of, you said you have a bit of scoliosis, and
Yeah.
I've heard of the symptoms that you discussed, right? Yeah, I mean, could you speak a little bit more to that if you're comfortable with it, like what that's been like, and yeah, just in general.
Yeah, Marfan syndrome is a spectrum, and people can just like, they could just get like the physical aspect of it, but not the, I guess, internal aspect with like heart problems, vision problems. Like some people could just be like really tall with long limbs, but that's as far as it would go.
Really?
And then there's people who may not even physically look like they have Marfans. They just look like, you know, average sized limbs and like not that tall. But then they have like really bad heart issues and vision problems, scoliosis. For me, I got all of it. So I have heart problems, vision problems, scoliosis. I physically look like I have Marfan syndrome. And I will say that one thing that Marfan didn't really grant me too much is height, because there are usually people who have Marfans, typically they're like almost like 6 foot tall, over 6 feet. I'm 5'7", so I'm kind of like on the shorter side of that spectrum. But yeah, I've had so many surgeries, like ever since I was like a child. I've had so many surgeries, and that's just been pretty normal to me. I think even like when I was growing up in school, I didn't realize I had anything different about me for a while. I think the first encounter that I realized, like, because at the time, like, I thought going to the doctor was normal. Like, I thought, okay, kids go to the doctor, it's normal.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, like, exactly, like, why I was going. Like, I just was just going just because. But I think my first encounter of, like, realizing that was a little bit different was, I remember in elementary school, I was playing around with my fingers because I'm really, like, double jointed and flexible and stuff. So I was playing around with my fingers, and the kids, they were all, like, super amazed. They were like, whoa, you can bend your fingers back, you can do this. And, like, they were just like asking me to do things with my hands, and I would do them, and everybody was like so surprised. And I was like, I thought everybody could do this. Like, this is a little odd that I'm the only one that can do it. And then that was like the first instance where I was like, maybe I'm a little different.
Right. So Marfan, I mean, so it affects your growth, and that's what causes the heart problems and the spinal issues. Is that what it is?
Since it's like a connective tissue disorder, so our tissues are just like really like long and like thin and fragile. And that's why a lot of, that's why, for example, like my eyes are really sensitive with becoming blind, just because the tissue around it is not that strong. So if I were to get hit or things like that, my retina wouldn't be strongly attached to my eye. So it could just like, even for like roller coasters, they don't let me go on like roller coasters that whip me around, because just like a sudden like whip of like this roller coaster turning, I can lose my vision.
Wow. So, I believe I saw you were diagnosed at a relatively young age, but, so was it the frequency that you were going to the doctors that kind of like were tipping you off? Or were you like, kids go to the doctor, but I'm going a little much?
Too much.
Yeah. Was it that was starting to tip you off, or?
I think it started to tick me off when I started getting into those classes of like for blind kids. Because they didn't have me like that at the start. I think because they were trying to figure out what to do with me. And I was hopping around different elementary school districts and things like that because they didn't know where to put me until finally an elementary school had they had a vision program, so they sent me there, and then that's when I was like, okay, so I'm in this classroom with other kids who have vision problems. I guess, I'm a little different.
Oh, so then I guess like I'm really curious as to like of that experience, because I guess like hearing you speak, a lot of like, obviously there's some physical things that you discussed, but I think a lot of that feeling of being different was also coming from the outside, where whether it was they were putting you in classes where you didn't need to be, or it was people commenting, or like you said, just teachers like that. So like, so then what was that experience like? Did it affect like your relationship with your Marfan syndrome? Was it like at first like you were totally well adjusted to it, and because you were diagnosed at such a young age that you didn't really pay it a second mind, and then as you interacted with people who were not understanding or on some weird power trip, that you felt bad, or how was that? Like, what was that process like?
I think, like, since I was diagnosed at a really young age, because I was diagnosed when I was 2. So for me, just like everything I went through to me was just like normal in my eyes. And I didn't see any sort of difference. And it would kind of irk me sometimes of like when growing up when I was a teen, I would have like, even like as a middle school or like even a kid, I would just have like random strangers like at a supermarket or something. Like they see that I look really like sick because with Marfans, we are typically really slender and skinny. It's hard for us to gain weight. Thankfully, because usually people with Marfans, once they get into like their adult phase, they have an easier time of gaining some weight. But as a kid, it's really, really hard. Like they had me on like a bunch of like these protein shakes. I had to like drink at least 4 protein shakes a day. And I had to eat so much food. And I remember, since I looked visibly really disabled, I would have strangers like approach me and my mom at the store, and they would just be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your daughter. Like, oh, she's like suffering," or like they would be like, "I'll have her in my prayers," and things like that. And I was like, suffering. I'm just at Target. Like, what's happening right now? So people would just always think that I was like suffering the whole time, but to me it was just like normal. Like, yeah, I went through surgeries and things like that, but I think like since I was already used to just being poked around and like, all these doctor visits, it was like no biggie for me.
Yeah.
I think if it were to just happen suddenly for like a person that was born, without any sort of medical issues, and then all of a sudden from one night to the other, they're having like severe surgeries and all these things. I think that could really mess up somebody. But since I kind of grew up already like that, it was just like
second nature.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I feel like what you talk about, right? Like how people see you and they kind of initially start judging you of like, oh, like poor her and all these things. I kind of want to know, how would you say, if you have an answer to this, of like, how would you say people should start approaching people with disabilities? Because I feel like I think a lot of us need to learn and be more aware of, not always
'Cause-
judging.
Because that was kind of what I wanted to say is like that experience that you had at Target was it reminds me of like Get Out, where you know how sometimes people try to be so not racist that they end up being
Yeah.
extremely
Yeah.
racist, like in
Yeah.
Get Out, where he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I would have voted for a third term for Obama,
Yeah.
you know, and ends up
Yeah.
being super racist.
Mhm.
Do you find that with like people being ableist, where they're
Yeah.
trying so hard to not be ableist that they end up being extremely ableist?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're basically, stereotyping,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
yeah.
So yeah, that for sure is exactly like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then where do you where do you think that issue comes from? Do you think it's just like the separation that you experience, or like why do you think people kind of like do that in general?
I'm gonna be real. I think it's a religious thing. 'Cause
Really?
It's mostly
Yeah.
religious people who come up to me doing that. Because I'm not a religious person
Right.
myself,
Mhm.
but from what I've seen, people who are really into religion, they also kind of have that similar power trip that people that with ableism and other things kind of share, and they feel like they have the high moral ground or something, and they feel like their blessings would cause some sort of like nice thing for the person, and I feel like it's mostly just to feed themselves of them feeling like they're a good person doing this, rather than actually like doing their research or like acting more normal towards people with disabilities. Like it's just more for themselves, I think, rather than
I get
the
you.
people they're
Interesting.
talking to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Considering how you're like, they come up and like, I'll pray for you, or I'll do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
That sounds pretty condescending too.
And I feel like it's been talked about. I feel like not in the Bible, but people have kind of quoted it being like, you're like this pure, right?
I
like,
think, yeah. Well, I think it's like you said, a lot of things. Where it's like
Mhm.
religion, infantilization, stereotyping. But I think it's also, again, this is just my opinion.
Mhm.
But I think people trying to feel like they're in control,
Yeah.
or like I'm helping you. Like
Mhm.
my prayer is gonna do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but the whole time you're like, I don't fucking need your prayer. Like I'm
I
fine.
feel fine.
Like I'm fine, you
Yeah.
know. So I think it's that. That's interesting though, that it's always the religious folk kind of
Yeah.
suddenly trying to stick their nose in your business. Being
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'll pray for you, because like honestly, when you really deconstruct that, that's really weird
Yeah.
to just come up to you and be like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess it goes into how she says it's kind of like that power trip, like, oh, I'm doing something right, like I'm
Yeah.
doing something good, like of me praying for you that you'll, I guess, get better in a sense. But it's like I'm completely fine,
I
like
also
I'm good.
I also think it's like, what's the word? Like a person is a person. Like
Mhm.
someone with a disability or a sickness or an ailment or an injury. I don't know how to explain it. It's like they aren't your like tool to make you feel like some morality case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And I think that often gets like becomes like a thing where
Yeah.
it's like they start to, maybe that's why, I'm not going to
Yeah.
presume,
Mhm.
maybe that's why people who are in those fields or whatever
Yeah.
end up being super ableist, is
Mhm.
because they're not treating them as a person. They're treating them as a like,
This is my
you're my
reward.
good thing that I'm
Mhm.
doing, you know?
Yeah.
Do you find that to be the case a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I feel like it's like what she said. It's like it feeds into their ego, right?
Yeah.
Of like, I'm this great person who's doing all these great things, right? And then they kind of forget like I guess their main goal of what they're doing. You know, like they forget like I don't know what the word is either, but it's just like it just feels like it feeds into them
I just
differently.
think, yeah, you can't. I just think you really got to check yourself if you're ever walking into like an interaction with somebody and being like, I'm the moral high ground, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was going to ask. I think I lost my train of thought. So I guess like growing up too, like I guess, well, because I have never heard of Marfan syndrome until I came across your page, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I wanted to ask about like representation. Do you find are there any people that you find maybe not with Marfan syndrome or that do or have a disability that you feel like, oh, I look up to them, or like I really pull a lot from them? Do you find any people like that, or do you feel like I want to be that person?
I think the only person growing up that I saw that was like in the spotlight, talking about Marfan syndrome a little bit was Lizzie Velasquez. But she kind of has a bit more of a more extreme case mixed in with other things. So sometimes there were times that I feel like I resonated with her, but then being like, I feel like it's, she's a bit more different than I am.
Yeah.
I have yet to see somebody kind of like in a more similar stance. So I sometimes would just like, I couldn't really find much about like other people with Marfan. So sometimes I would like just to feel better and feel like there was people that looked like me. I would go on Instagram and I just put like hashtag Marfan syndrome and look through the hashtags to
Right.
see just like how people were living their life. But
Right.
it wasn't like, well-known people. They were just like normal people that just so happened I would like their public, their Instagram public.
Right.
So, I'm hoping that I could be that, be kind of a representation for Marfans. There has been, I think, with this age of social media, there has been more people with Marfans that have been able to like talk about it and like advocate for it in a larger scale. But back then, growing up, because the internet was still kind of like, social media was still kind of shaping itself. It was hard to find some like a representation.
Definitely. Because I think one of the reasons I wanted to ask about that is, because kind of like how you were describing when they put you in a special ed class, and it was very clear to you that it was just they just lumped you guys all together. And that it wasn't that they just heard special ed or like disability. Okay, just throw them into the same class. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And I think, that's such a difficult reality because I think there's, like you said, there's such a huge diaspora of disabilities, of what they can look like, of how they can manifest. And then even, as you said, in that just one disability, it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole another spectrum of the levels of help or what assistance the person wants or doesn't need or doesn't feel like they want, I guess like what do you wish it was more like? Because I like when I hear about it a lot, I feel like it sounds so frustrating in the sense of like it either feels like people are trying to stick people into one box of like, this is what the book says, so you're gonna follow what I say, or it's no attempt at all, and it's like, we'll just lump you all together, like, and that's that. Like, so is what do you feel, or how do you feel like, what do you wish it was more like dealing with these kinds of things?
Like for school and stuff
Like for
that?
school and work and all kinds of
For
stuff like that.
people.
Yeah, people, yeah.
I think definitely more funding for the special education program, just so there could be more classrooms that are focused on different things that people need instead of lumping
Right.
everybody together. And more programs for disabled creative people to get them in a creative work space.
Right.
I think a good example of that is, I forget her name. She's on Love on the Spectrum, and she has like an animation company where I think she hires like people on the spectrum. I forget what her name is, but she has something like that, and I think that's super cool.
Right.
And just like, more give disabled people more options, and if they don't need the resources, then that's fine.
Let them decide for themselves.
Let them decide. And then for work, sometimes I do wonder. I know people, they want like, because there are some people that are like really socially challenged, and they, for work, they have them be like the greeter at like at a store, and they just sit there for like they just sit there for
like an 8-hour shift.
Just greeting people. But they would have like an assistant. So then the assist, because I've seen it firsthand when I, like, if I go into like a Goodwill or something, there's like there's somebody sitting there, and they have like an assistant, and they tell them, oh, say hi to that person, and they say hi to me. And I'm just like, okay, what's the, like, I just want to make sure, is the person working this job actually feeling fulfilled? Are they actually having fun, or are they just putting them there because they don't know where else to put them throughout the day?
Definitely.
And we also have to just like be accepting that not everybody with a disability has to work. I think it's fine if there's like a better, if disability benefits was able to give even more benefits, because they don't really give that much. Even more benefits just for people who are at like absolutely just cannot work and just need to like live a comfortable life. I think they should be granted that, and not everybody has to work, I think.
Of course, absolutely. Because I this always happens where there's a term for it, or that's a phenomenon that happens where it's like it seems sometimes that the system is like grading you based on how well you can operate within it. So it's like basically echoing what she said about how, for a lot of people, like, work just isn't it's like this, they're forcing them to work, they're forcing them to be into this one. It's like, would that really help them? Like, like you said, like being a greeter, some people have a really difficult time being social. Like, what does that benefit them, really? And I think in a lot of ways, I think if the benefits were better, it would make their lives a lot more comfortable, a lot easier. They can focus on things that they actually care about and are passionate about, like art and stuff like that. So I completely agree. Did you have something to say? So I was gonna, I guess, to wrap it around too, I wanted to, I guess, move the conversation on a little bit about I guess go back to your art a little bit. Has there been a favorite moment that you've had with your art journey? Like, has there been a moment that you've been like, this is my favorite about all of them. This is why I do what I do.
Trying to think. I feel like I've had so many favorite moments, kind of like the strawberry shortcake one and then Hot Topic. But I feel like growing up, I've always had that sort of like, I feel like I've kind of been rebellious in a way just because of how school was treating me. So I would kind of just do things how I wanted to do them, or just finesse my way through things. I always had like a strong desire of just like, I guess, justice within myself, justice with like other people. And I always had like a fascination for people who helped other people. Like when you hear stories of like when you're taught in history, like people that help like slaves escape to like somewhere more safe, or like, just heroic people, right? I've always thought to myself, I hope that in the future I'm able to also help people. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, just because like my background is like really, it would feel like it would be almost impossible for me to like help others, just because I grew up extremely low income and didn't have much resources. So I'm like, how the heck am I gonna help people in the future? That's when I honestly was gonna be a therapist growing up. I always had that thought in my head, like, I want to be a therapist, maybe I could like help people. But I ended up not being a therapist just because I'm really bad at math. So when I was in community college, I could not pass my math classes. So, and you really need that to be a therapist. So I was like, okay, I can be a therapist, but I would like to still be in like the action. I'd like to share people's stories. I'd like to share what's going on out in the world. So I'm going to be a journalist, and I changed my major to journalism. And I got into journalism, but it just wasn't what um it just wasn't for me, I feel like. And then I started to think like I had to be kind of a bit real with myself. Obviously, I think, you know, people with disabilities can take on a journalism position, but I just knew myself and I was like, I don't think this work field is for you, because I just really wanted to be those journalists that were in the action, you know, like
Right.
at a protest and like taking action, interviewing people. But I know myself, and I know that I'm just I physically can't stand for too long, or like I'm also really fragile. So if I get into a heated situation, like in action, I could get really hurt. I could lose
Right.
my vision. So I was just like, you gotta think real. Like I don't think this is like it's a nice dream, but like I don't think this is suited for you. So then I was just like, well, I'm good at art, so I'm gonna do art. I'm gonna be a art major, but I was gonna do like art therapy. That's what I was going to school for. I was going to get into that program to be an art therapist. And I just really wanted to help people. So I think the fulfilling part of doing what I'm doing as an artist and having a big platform and having a lot of eyes on me is being able to spread messages for things and help fund for things, do donations and things like that. Even though it's like, obviously I'm not like a millionaire, like donating millions of dollars, but I'm still able to just like make videos and spread the message and do like little buttons. Like I designed buttons for different donations for like, you know, immigration, Palestine and all that stuff. So I think for me that I feel like that's part has been my favorite, just being able to have the privilege to have a lot of eyes on me and being able to use that to my advantage.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because I think, well, I think you do help a lot of people because I think I think comfort characters like the ones that you make, I think cannot be understated. I mean, I think comfort characters really do help a lot of people in a lot of ways. And I also think just your openness as well, I think helps a lot. I mean, it inspires me. Like, I don't really talk about like how I just talked about like my anxiety and stuff. But I think just stuff like that, I think it is helping a lot. And then even how you just said like Palestine and immigration are nice. I think you are being outspoken. I mean to us, like we've talked about it a lot, but a lot of people won't even like
Say
completely
anything.
quiet about it, especially people you know, who make art or do stuff like that, or I feel like people aren't outspoken like that. So I do think that you definitely help a lot of people in a lot of ways. Like I've seen your content all over the place get reposted, and I think it resonates with a lot of people as well.
Yeah, and I think especially like how you said, like you want to put. I think just saying your story is enough to inspire, and is enough to do what you kind of want to do of just spreading that awareness, right? Like, for example, even right now, like I felt like I've learned a lot through just having this conversation with you. And I've learned a lot, and I'm hoping that even our audience will learn a lot about, there's people may have these disabilities, but they're capable of so many other things.
Well,
right?
I also think one of my favorite stories that you tell or have told on your Instagram is the one about your mother, about how like your first generation, correct?
Yeah.
And how like I mean I mentioned it earlier a little bit about how she had to be there for you and she had to care for you a lot.
Yeah.
But she took up a lot of babysitting jobs and did all these things. I think that's a really inspiring and story of resilience and and I think especially now considering all the attacks on immigration and all the ICE raids, I think that's a really cool story.
Yeah.
And I guess that would probably be one of my final questions to ask you about that. Like, like what was that like growing up? Like having your mom, like, was your mom always your biggest supporter in that way?
Yes,
That's really cool.
she always wanted me to have a comfortable life and be happy.
Yeah.
Of course, she wanted me to go to university, just
Right.
like any Hispanic mom
Right.
that comes to this country and is like, okay, hopefully my children can do something big. So for me, that was always my goal. I was like, okay, I'm going to get into university. I'm going to make her proud and things like that. But she understood that it was going to be hard for me. And so even when I told her that I'm going to do art, she was just like, okay, that's fine. Like, I trust you. I know that, you're going to do well. And for me, that was so much pressure though, because since, she's first generation and I'm coming in here to plant the seed. I'm the oldest, so for me, it felt like my duty to get my family out of us
Right.
of the situation that we were in. And it was just me, my mom and my little brother who's like 6 years younger than me. So it would get a little bit frustrating because I just so badly wanted to go to college, make money, and be able to buy a house for us to live in, because we never really had a house. We were always like sleeping in different like family members' homes and things like that until I think like my last 2 years of high school, we were granted a Section 8 apartment in like a really bad side of town. So sometimes we would like hear gunshots and like ambulances all the time. I remember our neighbor got raided because they had like a coke business, I guess. So it was like a really bad place to live, and it fired me up because I was like, we gotta get out of this situation. My brother could get into some sort of trouble. Somebody could break in, or we could accidentally get shot at because people would get into fights outside of our apartment.
Right.
So that fired me up even more. And when taking that risk with the art and like not going to college and just going full force with business, that was a really risky move on my part, just because since my goal was always to like bring my family into like a safer area, that was like a big risk. But for whatever reason, I just like, when I'm really committed to something, I'm going to try my very best, no matter what way. And also I was like, this is a jump of faith because if I were to go to college, we would still have to wait maybe like 4 more years until I graduated, and then maybe I'll get a job, right, from somewhere. But since this business was already giving me money, I was like, okay, well, if I want to get out of here quicker, let's just go with this plan instead.
Right.
And then, I started the business in 2020. I went full force. We left that apartment in 2021. We packed up our things, and we got into our tiny little car, and then we drove up to Portland, and we got a nice apartment in a nice area. And I remember that was really scary because there was no sound in the neighborhood. Like, it was quiet, and I'm used to hearing ambulances, people shouting, and kids running around and all that stuff. So it was a big adjustment just because I was used to all the chaos. So coming to like a nice neighborhood and seeing just people walk their dogs, there's nothing really going on. It was just really weird to me.
Right.
It was weird to grasp. And even my mom was scared. I remember because I was able to give her first bedroom because she never had her bedroom ever. Like, growing up in Mexico, she lived with she was it was a family of 12. So they were just like cramped up in like a 1-bedroom house. Even in the other apartment, the Section 8 apartment, she would sleep in the living room, and me and my brother would have the room. So she never had her own bedroom. So when we moved over, we had a 3-bedroom apartment, and she had her first bedroom. And I remember like the first months or so of us being at the apartment, she was really scared to sleep by herself. So it took a little bit of like, you know, we would sleep with her in the living room for like a hot second, but then we were like, okay, you know, it's time for you to sleep in your own bedroom. And she was just like really scared. But now she loves her bedroom. That's like her safe haven. She loves being in there. So that, I think that was really fulfilling for me, was getting her into a more comfortable situation. But that's still kind of like, that's still a big stressor for me. And in the position that I am, because I feel like I'm bringing a lot to the table right now with the business. And because of like the financial stuff happening with like tariffs and things like that, business has slowed down, and that has caused me to get in a more protective and more like wake up, let's get back to work momentum. Because I remember I felt a bit more relaxed maybe last year, because I had to go to therapy because I could not stop working, and it was causing me to have panic attacks. Like I even had the ambulance come for me because I had like a really bad panic attack, and I thought I was like having a heart attack. And I had to go through therapy, and we had to go through like my childhood and like how I was feeling. And it was weird because they told me that they said that I was having panic attacks because since I was in a more safe environment, and you know, financially I was safe, we were in a safe house, everything was going nice, my brain could not comprehend it, and that was making me panic. And I thought that was really weird, because I was like, if I'm living a good life, then why is my brain panicking? And they just said that's because you let your guard down. So like once you let that guard down, everything that you've been suppressing when you were trying to survive is coming back to like haunt you. So I had to go through therapy for it, and I became more relaxed on work and things like that. But now I feel like it's creeping back up on me, where I feel like I need to work harder just because of this whole tariff situation. Because I would still like to provide a good space for my family, and I don't want to, you know, it's like traumatizing to think about, like, what if we go back to California and we have to live in like a, you know, a scary place, you know, like just the thought of it makes it so scary.
Definitely. So would you feel it? Did you feel, I mean, even like you said, how it's creeping back up, did you always feel like something's on the horizon though, like something bad might happen? And then you kind of felt like this general like anxiety that it would all come crashing down, and then you'd have to come back. Yeah, I can imagine. That's tough, man. But I think that's a really crazy, and I think a really inspiring story. Specifically because, like I said, it really resonated with me, and I thought it was really powerful. You said how people kept trying to tell you how to survive, but you wanted to live. And I think because of that decision, you were able to move your family out to Portland and give your mother a bedroom, and she never grew up with them. So I think that's a really inspiring story, and I just wanted to give you your flowers for that, because I think that's really incredible.
No, yeah, I also wanted to say, and like just speak, I guess, also to our audience of like, you know, supporting small businesses, especially during these times, like how you mentioned with the whole like tariffs and everything getting so expensive. It's understandable that it's becoming hard. But again, like, I think your story is very inspiring. And again, I think collectively as just a whole, we should continue to support these small businesses as well during these times. Yeah.
So the tariffs have been really hitting you hard.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Especially just like, it's just so back and forth. Like this orange guy, he's just like, he's just changing his mind every time. So sometimes he's like, okay, 30% tariff 1 week. But then the next week he's like, actually 245% tariff. And I'm like, how am I supposed to order merchandise?
Right, like definitely.
Instability. So I've held back on making a lot of new merchandise, you know, so.
No, I mean, I think it's, well, because I think, first of all, I don't know how anybody could believe what he's saying, or like how anybody ever really thought that that would work.
Yeah.
Because I think this is just proof of how it's just destroying small businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, the only people who can keep up with it are these gigantic corporations who have
Yeah.
billions upon billions, if not trillions of dollars to play around with. But yeah, I think it's super important to support small business, especially Latino-owned small business,
Yeah.
because I think our community has been under attack ever since he showed up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I completely agree.
We've been truly suffering. Even
Yeah.
like in my warehouse, it's a little scary because we've had like ICE agents roam around that area.
Really?
And I had some neighbors behind me who, like, ever since I got my warehouse 2 years ago, they were always like blasting Mexican music. They were a vibe. Like they, I always, and you could tell kind of like the workers, their mood based off of the songs that they were
Right.
choosing.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was like really sad Spanish songs, or sometimes really party
Yeah.
Mexican songs. But then I think once the whole ICE stuff started to happen, and I saw the first ICE truck around our warehouse parking lot, all of a sudden
Wow.
it's been pretty quiet. No, there hasn't been any sound on that warehouse. I haven't checked in on them to see if any of them are okay, or if they're just like, quieting down just in case.
Yeah.
But that's really sad to see. Like
Yeah.
I feel like the culture, like blasting music, or like even like the fruit stands, or like just people selling flowers on the street. Like
Yeah.
I feel like the culture is being sucked out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's like a real time dimming of the light, where
Yeah.
it's like it's something so vibrant, something so like fun, even
Yeah.
to come into work and have like lively music, and then like the next week is just completely gone. And everybody's kind of trying to keep their head on.
Yeah.
For me, I've seen I guess I shouldn't say what street because I don't want any more attention on it. There's this street that I take to go and do to work that I usually go on Fridays, where it's just nothing but flower vendors, like for an entire street. And when the ice raid started, they were maybe gone for like a day, but then they all showed the stands came back, but it wasn't them. It was all children. Like it was all their kids, all
Yeah.
teenagers, or sometimes even younger,
Yeah.
which like broke my heart a little bit. I mean, like obviously it's like I admire and I'm like, that's so cool that they'll show up for their parents, or like the resilience of the community. But like I know for a fact those parents don't want their kids to have to go out there
Yeah.
Yeah.
selling to strangers. It's dangerous, like or in hot weather when it's
Yeah.
raining or whatever it is. So I completely understand. That's surprising. I mean, it's not surprising, but I mean, I guess out here you don't really hear about it getting up there into Portland, but
Right now it's really
Well, right
hot
now
in
there's
Portland.
yeah.
Really?
I think the strikes are happening right now.
really,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have been seeing like the other side of it, of people using the inflatables,
Oh yeah, the frog inflatable.
the frog inflatables or like giraffe inflatables to go to like the protest.
For what?
That way, so it can look that it's very peaceful. Like it's to kind of play on the whole thing of like,
Oh.
see, we're peaceful here. Like
It's like
we're
a
all-
party.
Yeah,
Oh, I
like
get you.
we're not causing any type of chaos.
I-
We're just here as a
I
community.
didn't know that's what it was. I did see one case where they pepper sprayed the inside of the inflatable.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, you
No, I
saw
didn't see
that
that one.
Yeah, that's brutal.
No,
Yeah.
I just saw it this morning where it's this lady. She has like this whole entire kind of like a closet, and it's all inflatables.
Oh, she's passing them
she's
out?
passing them out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, I've said it before. When I went to the protests that happened, there's another one happening on Saturday. No King's
Yeah.
Day too.
Mhm.
But they're always super nice. Like
Mhm.
genuinely, I'm not much of a people person. I find a lot of people to be a little rude.
Mhm.
But protests, the ones I've been to, the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
I remember like literally maybe every 15 minutes you'd run into somebody with a cart who would be passing out water or food, or just asking if you were okay or if you need anything. There's
Yeah.
people with like what do you call it? Like med kits?
Yeah.
First aid
Oh,
kits.
yeah.
First aid kits, because like just in case there was gas or if people
Mhm.
fell or if in the crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's crazy that Portland, and that they're outside your warehouse too.
Yeah, it's getting a lot more hotter in our area. It used to
Yeah.
not, but now, just because I think Trump is also sending like the National Guard and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And he says that obviously that Portland's a war zone and whatever, and that's why people are using inflatables to kind of mock that what he's saying about it being a war zone where it's like
Yeah.
peaceful. I was
Yeah.
about to take our giant mascot over to that
Yeah.
protest in front of the ICE building, but of course, like, my mom is very scared of it
Yeah.
all, so she told me, like, that sounds like a good idea, but just know, like, I'm really scared. I
Yeah.
don't want you to get into any sort of trouble or like
Yeah.
have them arrest you guys or anything like that. So I don't want to make my mom stressed out. I want her to live a happy life. So So
understandably so.
I decided not to. So
No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know about that. That's smart, but I'm sure they'll twist it into some crazy thing, right?
Yeah,
About-
I haven't seen. Well, I haven't seen the
The inflatables.
negative side of it, other than I guess people.
Yeah,
just
I
being-
didn't. I haven't heard about Portland. I've mostly been hearing about Chicago. I know Chicago
Yeah,
is
it also
really
happened in
bad right
Chicago,
now.
Yeah.
That he's going really crazy in Chicago right
Yeah.
now.
No, yeah. The only thing that I had been seeing recently about Portland is the inflatable stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's still bad. It's always because it's
Yeah.
LA. It's always bad here, but it was really bad. Like what was it?
The beginning.
Well, how many months ago was it now?
No, it was in the summer.
And the summer
happened
was
in the
really
summer.
bad.
Yeah.
That one, there was one where they were here like forever. Basically, they kept catching people. Like I remember that it was like every other week. It was a story or somebody filming that they were outside the parking lot of a Home Depot, or they caught somebody at the McDonald's that's right there, right? The thing. Yeah, it's terrible. I mean I always think it's terrible that and so painfully ironic that they have to wait for people at work,
Yeah.
because I'm like, you spend all this time like demonizing the community and saying like
They're
lazy, they don't do anything,
Yeah.
but the only place you can catch them is while they're doing their job,
Yeah.
like doing actual work, meaningful work, helping people. You know, I think that's so terrible.
I think also, like, when they grab them at courthouses,
Yeah.
when they're in
Yeah.
the process of getting like everything legally, processed, that's also really ironic because
Yeah.
people keep saying they're here illegally, they're not
Or-
doing the process, they're breaking the rules.
They're not doing
They're
it
not
the
doing
right way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there they
Mhm.
are showing up to do it the right way and they grab them. Yeah, because I knew somebody who had to go into court recently about something unrelated, but they
Yeah.
were terrified about that. And they had to go over with the police and they'd be like, yo, like I know I have to be there, but like, do I have to be there? Like, they're picking people up and you know how police are. They're like, it'll be fine. Like, we
Yeah.
won't let anybody this and that. But yeah, it's painfully ironic and just painful to see. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was a few weeks ago. It was a mother or a wife. She was like begging the ICE agent not to take her husband. And he just throws her to
Oh
the
yeah, I
ground.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. I can't stand to see
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because especially, I think too, it's just like how we're talking about how it's like how it's so not true, all the stereotypes that they push. But I think it just even bleeds over into the community like yourself, right? Where it's like you're just trying to operate your small business,
Yeah.
and you worry about your workers or the people who are in your facility, and like that's just. I think that's something that's undersold is like the ripple effects that it has throughout the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
That it's not just like these individual groups of people, like it's the people attached to them, it's the people, the families that they have, it's their husbands, wives, it's their coworkers, their friends, whatever it is. And yeah, that's rough.
I remember recently me and my mom were at the warehouse. Thankfully my mom, she's she has she's what's it called?
Documented.
She's documented.
Right.
So but I'm still afraid of them taking her and
Stereotyping.
Yeah.
stereotyping and not wanting to verify until she's actually at a facility.
Yeah.
And I just remember recently we were at the warehouse and we were working packing orders, and then all of a sudden we hear like a truck pull up outside of the warehouse, and we hear like a door opening or something like really loud, and we were like, what? Like, we didn't think much of it. We just thought maybe it's like for the neighbor or something. And then we hear like this like banging at our door, and we're like, I told my mom, I was like, you stay back, let me look. And it was like really scary. And then I peek over, and it was just like a delivery person, but they like banged really hard, and it sounded
Right.
really scary.
Yeah.
And then I got the package, and then I went back, and my mom was like, she was like, holding her chest and like breathing in and
Oh,
out, being
yeah.
like, oh my God, I thought that was like one of those ice vans. And I was like, I thought so too.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
think, I mean, I think that's justifiable. I was
Mhm.
like, what the hell's that delivery guy's problem? Dude? Like, but I think, no, yeah, I know
Yeah.
everybody's on edge. Everybody's got to keep their eyes
Yeah.
open and scared. I mean, Steve was telling me the other day, not the other day, like a month ago, I think, where he was eating nearby, and ice rolled up, I think down the street.
Yeah, they were like a
Yeah,
block
they were
away.
like a block away, and that like basically the entire block just shut down. Like
Yeah.
all the businesses were like, we gotta go, like we're gonna close right real quick, and everybody was shouting like ice is here and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and um, you know, like that's scary, man. To
Yeah.
constantly be like on edge like that, ugh, that's terrible.
Oh yeah, I feel like yeah, when it was happening in the summer, I just remember being super worried about my parents because like they work, by
Right.
themselves, and um always just being on edge that something, or getting that phone call, right, of like, they
Something
took
happened.
something happened.
Right.
And but I just feel like I think we just all have to be protective of each
Yeah.
other, and look
And
out for each
just
other.
aware, like I said,
Yeah.
like everybody was saying, is like just the ripple effects it has on the community
Mhm.
and how it's been. But I think just like to kind of like slowly just wrap things up a little bit, I wanted to ask you one final question, which was, do you have any advice for anybody out there watching who wants to follow in your footsteps, who's inspired by your story, or who wants to get into the art industry and start their own small business, make their own comfort characters, or follow in your footsteps? Do you have any advice for anybody listening?
Yeah, I think I will say two advice for some of the two biggest groups that feel the most inspired by me, that want to kind of follow my footsteps, is number one, the disabled community. Is that I sometimes get messages or comments from people saying that they're disabled, but they feel like they're trying their best, kind of like how I am. Like they're working really hard, but they're not getting what I'm kind of getting, I guess,
Right.
like the same, you know, the same, energy. And I always feel like, and it needs to be said that it's not all by myself, because a lot of people think that it's just me who, it's just me who is doing all this by myself. It's not. Like, I have my partner who he helps me do all the heavy lifting, and like, he drives me to places. He was the one that like funded my art supplies when I first started, because I didn't have any money. And then obviously my mom is super supportive. My brother's also very hands-on. So I have a lot of help. Obviously I'm doing the art and things like that. But sometimes it's like it just takes a community to
Right.
uplift.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be all by yourself. And I don't think having help makes you less powerful or less less accomplished, because it's still an accomplishment whether or not you receive help.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of disabled people get in the mindset of like, I have to do it all by myself in order to feel like I'm independent and I did this myself. I just think be easy on yourself and don't push yourself, and just like be patient, have people help you. Like, it's fine to get help.
Right.
And just be patient. Everybody, like I said, disability is a spectrum, so work with your strengths, not your weaknesses. So and then for Hispanic people, I fear that a lot of them get into workspaces that they are not feeling fulfilled, just because they feel like they have to be a lawyer or a doctor or things like that. But I just know that a lot of Hispanic people are extremely creative, so I think they can really dive into like art, filmmaking, photography, just so many things. And I think if you feel passionate about it, I know that, a lot of people can make it out there. And I just think that we should set aside the whole I guess like stereotype of I will only feel like I made it in the US if I go to college and become a doctor. Because then just like people become unhappy and they never become fulfilled. So I think what we should chase being here is just fulfillment basically. I don't think, you know, having to be professional or anything like that, a professional job should be the dictator of whether or not you made it here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was incredibly well said, especially what you were saying about community. I think the role community plays in healing and success and helping others is second to none. I don't think you can. I really think it's just community is just so important. I don't think you can survive without community. And I think that was all really well said. Before I send everybody off, send everybody home, I want to give you a special thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it was a long journey for you to get here, and I know we've been planning this for a really long time. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and the time out of your trip to come join us. We had a great time talking with you. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for trusting us. Julie, do you have anything to say?
No, I just want to say thank you again for coming on here and, speaking and telling us your story. Again, how I mentioned before, it really is inspiring. And again, to our audience, continue to support, Mar and Mardelunaarts. If you guys want to see on Instagram, she's everywhere. So if you guys ever want to find them, we will also have links to them. And again, just special thanks to you. Truly, what you're doing is very inspiring and beautiful. And I am very grateful to have met you and have had you on the show. It truly is a big thing. And again, like I'm learning and hopefully everybody else is learning as well. But this was great.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't too nervous.
And thank you guys for being like a platform that like highlights a lot of Hispanic voices. I always enjoy hearing everybody's stories and things like that. I think, it's really important to highlight these voices right now, especially now.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
We
you
really
so much.
appreciate that. It means a lot to us when people come on here and say that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we really hope you had a good time. Everybody watching, please support Mardelunaarts. All of her links and socials will be in the bio. So please go and support small business. She makes fantastic stuff. You can even find her in Hot Topic right now. Are you in Hot Topic?
I'm currently sold out in Hot Topic.
Oh, well, you're going to have to wait then. You could buy directly from her. But let me do a shout out quickly to all of our patrons. Shout out to Yoel, Eli Quintero, Stephen Carbajal, Altadena Will Rebuild, and Dale Laura. Your patronage means so much to us. It really helps us out. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and watched. We really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.